Welcome to the Thought Brothers. I'm Mr. Producer Gary Johnson. We have the brothers here. They're all in place. And we're going to start off with the banker. I understand that just came in my ear. You got breaking news.
Come on,
and you
man.
know what? You got
What's
10
up?
minutes. You got 10 minutes. The clock starts now.
Oh, man.
Look in there. Go.
I can make that happen. Look, guys. What's up, Gary? What's up, CJ? What's up, Mr. Spivey? Look, again, I'm telling you, man, I like good breaking news. So all I got to say is the Harbaugh brother in Baltimore is going to win the Super Bowl this year. Okay, but that's not the breaking news. The breaking news is his brother has just been hired by the Los Angeles Chargers as the new head coach. Says Jim Harbaugh, who returned Michigan to glory with the program's first national title since 1997, is becoming coach of the NFL's Chargers with a 5-year deal. Sources told ESPN 47 minutes ago. All right, guys. So looks like who has it better than us? Nobody. Well, I guess the Los Angeles Chargers got it better because he's getting a new contract down in Los Angeles. So you know what? I think that I take my hat off to him. He went to Michigan. He played for Michigan. He went back to school. He got it back to football glory. He rolled in, and he's rolling out, because he rolled in off of a Super Bowl appearance against his brother, right? About 10, 12 years ago. So he rolled out of the NFL. Now he's probably coming back thinking, it's not about money. It's not about who can have it better, because I'm sure they were treating him like a king in Michigan. It sounds like it's about legacy and personal pride. Can he be one of a few men like Jimmy Johnson who have won a college national and Barry Switzer who won a college national championship and then also won the Super Bowl? We got to think about that, man. What are you guys' thoughts on that, man? Let me throw it to you guys for a couple some input on Coach Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. What's up? Nobody?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good fit. Like I said, it's really about trying to get them to figure out how to, I guess, rehabilitate Justin Herbert from kind of being his reputation of starting to be kind of like a choke artist and a little overrated. So, but he's still got incredible amounts of talent. Chargers usually field a team with a ton of talent. So, and like I said, Harbaugh just won the national championship, so he's got nothing left to prove there at Michigan. I mean, he accomplished a mission. So it's a good time for him to go back to the pros. So he got a nice contract and gets to live in, like I say, a nice LA, nice situation. So I think it works out, makes sense.
Okay. So I'm thinking, so you're thinking that that weather in LA, and he's got a situation where he can probably almost take control of the whole organization based on his accomplishments and his resume. Okay, that could be a pretty good deal. If you can go hit the beach and run an organization and not have to shovel snow. Okay, I might be able to roll with that. Okay, all right. Hey, Mr. Spivey, what you think? What's going on with that Jim Harbaugh move?
Well, I think personally it's nice to see a general manager and a team who's going to hire a winner and not sitting around talking about hiring a loser that has had losing seasons, but he's the best thing on the market. I think Harbaugh will do well. He did well before when he was in the NFL. I think he and his brother are the only two that have ever played against each other as coaches in a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He was there at San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, for 3 years, and he took them to the playoffs every year. I don't know if he's going to be able to turn this team around the first year he's there, because it's just a complete different animal when you're dealing with college players and dealing with professional players. They operate different, and then most of the time it's kind of hard to discipline them when you got players that's making 10 times your salary and you're trying to control them. It's a little different when you're dealing with college players, but that is even now getting to be a task with the NIL and players getting $10 million and that type of thing, even in college. But like I said, I think it's a good hire. I'm glad to see them hire Harbaugh, because if I'm not mistaken, I think the pundits kept trying to throw Bill Belichick at the Chargers, and now they're throwing him at Atlanta, trying to see if they can get him a job at Atlanta. So I wish Harbaugh the best, and I think he may take them to the playoffs, even though I don't think he's going to win a Super Bowl the first year. Because like I said, there is a difference between pro and college.
I agree with that. Well, check this out. How about this connection, right? You know that when the Raiders beat the Chargers 63-21, it was a primetime game. Was that a Thursday night game, I think? Possibly. It was a primetime game. You know, the Chargers fired their general manager after the game. Now, I don't know of a time that a general manager has actually suited up and actually played in a primetime football game. But I'm trying to figure out why he was the scapegoat. I guess the other games they won during the season weren't good enough. Just that 63-21 loss, you don't fire did they fire the coach? I don't even know what's going on. But I guess they fired the coach at some point. But anyway, because Harbaugh's taking the job. But I'm just saying, what's up with the general manager getting fired after the 63-20? He don't play. He gets the players. That sounds like some bad coaching that night. But anyway, that general manager, Raiders named ex-Chargers executive, who's general manager, Tom Telesco, is the new general manager of the Raiders. Okay, so that tells me something. One, they're in the same division. Okay, he's going to be out for blood trying to get back at the Chargers for letting him go as a scapegoat for that 63-21 loss. Now, the good news is, after 20 years of the Rooney Rule, I think we're up to 4 black head coaches from 3. We got my man Antonio Pierce, who used to play for the Washington Redskins. He is the head coach. They're keeping him with the Raiders, man. And I tell you what, we saw some improvement out of that Raiders team once he took over. So including that 63-21 victory. What are you guys' thoughts on the 4th black head coach in NFL right now? What's happening with that?
He changed the
Carlos, I think it was a no-brainer. And you didn't have I don't think he had a whole lot of wiggle room. I mean, I know they play all kinds of games to get around. I mean, they do the Rooney Rule because it's required. But I know they play all kinds of games to get around hiring African-American coaches. But it was kind of his hands were tied. This guy came in, he took over for Josh Daniels that had put the team in the toilet. And he brought him back and it became a contender. Yeah. So, his hands were kind of tied. He couldn't get around it.
Yeah, well, you know what? Also, I did hear that the players, the locker room, spoke up and said there were guys saying they would run through a wall for Coach Pierce. So It's like, wow, if your team. So how many times have an owner actually listened to the players in the locker room, listened to the people on the team as opposed to just making his own decision? Let's see if the younger Davis can build a legacy of his own in Las Vegas with now Antonio Pierce. I think that's the question to ask, because they in Vegas, people gonna want to go to Vegas to play, and you're playing for a legendary franchise. They can have fun on Sunday and have fun the other 6 days of the week too. So let's see how this plays out. But I'm looking forward to looking at the Raiders. Hey, before I switch over and to you guys, that's my basic sports take. But besides, I'm still going with Detroit versus Baltimore in the Super Bowl. Detroit did win. I told you that. Right? Whoa. Okay, we still going with that, baby. We still going with that. But look, I since I only got about 90 seconds before we cut over for you guys to jump in. I wanted to throw something out there from a community standpoint. What's happening in the world? I know you guys, we usually talk about politics towards the end of the show, but I'm thinking about really just looking at a lot of things that I'm seeing every day. And every day I'm hearing about people who are getting scammed on the phone, people who are getting scammed by emails, people who are getting scammed when they knock on the door, people getting hit in the head for their car at the gas station. Crime is just sort of really rampant. Like, I think I've gotten 3 texts or 3 emails today telling me that I've won a astronomical amount of money, and I need to click on the email or the text or whatever the case may be. So I think it's sort of crazy the way it's going down. And, one thing about my great football coach, Ralph Payton from Fairmont Heights High School, he said, always look at the root cause. And the root cause, I hate to say it, guys, it looks like it's addiction in this country. Whether it's fentanyl or whatever the case may be, we're starting to see some crazy things happen based on the fact that people are just doing almost anything to get what they want. So maybe that's a thought that we're all going to take a look at and discuss a little bit later. But man, it's a little bit alarming. Over to you guys.
Mr. Spivey. Mr. Spivey, what do you got?
Well, Carlos, I'm going to keep it kind of on sports. You talked about the Raiders and hiring Antonio Pierce. And I was telling you that he really didn't have a choice. One of the most vocal guys on that team is one of the defensive players. His name is Cosby. I don't know if you recall, he has all the tattoos. He's fierce. He was the one that basically told the owner that this is who they wanted as the head coach, and the players got behind him. On that same vein, I'd like to get your all's thoughts on this recent episode that just happened. I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, where Adrian Griffin, rookie coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, went 30-13. They're like in second place, and he got fired because the players, Damian Lillard and what's the other guy's name? The
Giannis.
Giannis. They didn't particularly like the way that he coached him, so he was removed. Rookie coach, won 30 games, 13 losses, and in second place, and they removed him. So it goes back to something I said last week. Players are basically dictating what goes on with the teams, and the owners and the general managers are kind of forced to listen to them. This really surprised me because I thought this guy was doing well. I'd like to get y'all's opinion on what you think about something like that, because it's going to come again.
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting because, like I said, the record is good, but and like you said, it's a case study of how star players have so much leverage in the NBA. Like, this isn't football where your superstar is replaceable. Like, there's only a handful of NBA superstars, and they can change the economy of your city. They can change, just the whole dynamic of a whole environment of a culture. So they'll do whatever it takes to keep a Giannis or a Damian Lillard on top of the fact that if they felt like they couldn't win, they spent so much of their assets to get Damian Lillard. This is a win now situation. So if they feel like their coach has lost the team and that this is going to be a loss year, they can't afford a loss year. They have to win it all based on what they did to give up to get a 33-year-old Damian Lillard to, to cash in their chips for Giannis. So it is interesting that he didn't even make it through a whole season. But again, I kind of see the other side of it as well. And it had to be some heavy dysfunction with the players, like you said, and the star players, for them to want the coach to be ousted despite them still having a good record.
Hey, I'll give you a quick take. How about this one? Anybody heard of Paul Westhead? And
I was going to say it. I was going to say the same thing.
Oh, Gary. Gary, go ahead and give us the breakdown. Give us a break. Come on, man.
Magic got him fired.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been going on for a while, guys. It ain't something that's new. And don't tell me LeBron ain't got control on who's the coach on whatever team he plays on this week. Oh.
Well, they supposedly a few weeks ago they were supposedly having some dysfunction in the locker room also, but apparently I guess that's been squalled. Getting back to the playoffs this week, Carlos, you are predicting Detroit and the Ravens. So you're saying that the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, are going to take care of Mahomes in Kansas City?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
They ain't played a championship game in Baltimore since 1970 or 71. Man, they're going to win that game. If they don't win the game, You thought you saw insurrection at the U.S. Capitol in January 2021. You're gonna see Baltimore. I don't know. They're gonna be stealing crab cakes in the streets of Baltimore, man. If they don't win that game, they're gonna win that game. Lamar Jackson gonna be out there partying, eating crab cakes with them afterwards. Trust me, they're gonna win. And Detroit gonna go up to San Francisco and upset San Francisco. That's my prediction. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And the Ravens will beat the Lions in the Super Bowl, but the Lions, it'll be a victory for them just to get to the Super Bowl because they ain't never been to one. That last time they won a championship was like the 1950s. So Elvis was king, and I don't know, T-Bird was the #1 car in the country. I don't know. Motown hadn't been invented yet until 1958. That's right, they actually won championships in Detroit before Motown was founded. Let's see what happens.
Okay, I'm gonna take a switch. You talked about the insurrection, so I'm gonna talk about Mr. Donald Trump and the extent that the megas will go to. It's very interesting. I don't know if you all been keeping up with it, but Fani Willis, who is the prosecutor down in Georgia, they are now asking that she be removed as the prosecutor. If you remember back earlier, I think we talked about it on one of the shows when the mega side of the Senate, Jim Jordan, was trying to compel Fani Willis to come to Washington to testify because they felt that they should be able to look into the indictments down in Georgia. And I think Fani Willis educated Jim Jordan. Even though he went to night school, he was apparently not up on the law because she did not have the answer to the Senate and that she wasn't coming to testify. So that did not work. So a short time after that, I don't know if you recall, but they went to the governor, Kemp, and was asking that Fani Willis be removed as the prosecutor in the case against Donald Trump. And Kemp refused to remove her because he said that she was qualified and he saw no reason to remove her. Well, the latest escapade, and I don't know if you've been keeping up with it, Fani Willis hired a guy by the name of Nathan Wade to be the special prosecutor. Apparently, they've been friends for years. But Nathan Wade and his wife about 2 years ago, her name is Joycelyn Wade, they went through the process of a divorce. Joycelyn Wade had cheated on Nathan Wade with his best friend. So with the divorce, she wanted the documents sealed, and they have been sealed for the last 2 years. Well, on January the 8th, one of the people, Mike Roman, you may not be familiar with who he is, but he's one of the people in the Georgia case. He was basically the architect behind the fake electoral certificates that were delivered to Pence, that they wanted Pence to certify to give Donald Trump the election. On January the 8th, Joycelyn Wade requested that the sealed documents from her divorce from Nathan Wade be unsealed. She made that request on January the 8th at around 12:30 in the afternoon. That same day, about 4 hours later, Mike Roman's lawyer requested to the court that the divorce proceedings be entered and that Fani Willis and also Nathan Wade be removed from the case for a conflict of interest.
I think they got Olivia Pope from Scandal to dig up dirt so they could get what they needed to get done. I mean, that's literally what it is, right? They got a fixer somewhere. They're going to find dirt. If you didn't return that library book in 3rd grade, they're going to get you. And whatever you did, they're going to get you. And they're going to, until it works to their advantage. So I think that, you know, the court system should, I mean, judge her on her merits of her performance, not on her history.
Well, you know, my take on that is real simple. And the judge is agreed to have the divorce documents unsealed, and they're going to hold a hearing on it. But the point I wanted to make is this is just an example of what they're going to go through to continue to get these cases delayed until November the 8th. If Donald and the case down in Atlanta is probably one of the more serious cases because this is a RICO case. RICO, if you're not familiar with it, it was basically established for the mob, criminal enterprise. But she was able to link the activities during the re-election and all of the campaign stuff. She was able to link that to a RICO case. So they are looking at some serious time. So this is what they will go through and the extent that they will go through to try to remove her from the case. Because if he can get convicted on the RICO case, keep in mind, it's a state case. It's not a federal case. So he can't be pardoned on a state case by whoever becomes the president, whether he's the president or someone else becomes the president. That's my time.
All right. We'll circle back if we need to. Brother CJ, the clock starts now.
Well, I'll stay here on the Republican side of things for a second, since we are talking about Trump and his endless criminal charges, and that he is still the favorite. He basically smashed Nikki Haley in New Hampshire, despite Nikki Haley spending $224 million to his $92 million per ad. So she's almost trying doubling in spending, and he's still giving her the smackdown. She before that, Ron DeSantis pathetically dropped out and bent the knee to Trump, like this is Game of Thrones, and kissed his boots. And after saying all the tough guy talk about how Trump is this and that, now he grovels and meekly endorses Donald Trump in a pathetic end to his run. So DeSantis, the most uncharismatic human being ever created, is out of the race now, predictably. And it's looking like Trump and Haley are the last ones left in the Republican field. And it looks like Haley might just stay in as a Trump goes to jail insurance card for them. But outside of that, Trump is dominating the field again, whether they like it or not. It's his party, and he's going to be the nominee. And like I said, even the other establishment Republicans, when they drop out, they're endorsing Trump. They're bending the knee to Trump, and they're all coalescing around him despite the array of criminal charges. So that's where we're looking at. But I did want to transition into why he's likely to be president again, which is Joe Biden and the issues that he's having right now. He is going around still having issues at his speeches being protested for the war in Gaza, and how the State Department is really not doing a great job of even answering questions on handling that anymore, which is becoming an issue. And there was a clip I really wanted to hone in on this week, and it was from a focus group of voters in Michigan. And it was I guess he was a Muslim guy, and they were asking him about Biden, and he was a loyal Democratic voter, voted for Biden, always votes for Democrats, and how he was explaining that even though he's not a one-issue voter, this was a deal breaker issue for him. And I really wanted to hone in and explain to certain people who haven't really been plugged into the war in Gaza, why that's such a deal breaker for people, even though they even recognize the clear and present danger that Trump represents. And that the fact that people can't stomach voting for Joe Biden is a really extreme example of how bad things have gotten. So I was going to take a few notes, but these notes got pretty crazy. So it started basically on October 7th, which is basically the Israeli equivalent to our 9/11, basically like a terrorist attack that incites a whole lot of mess. But since then, even though this didn't start on October 7th, they've been brutally occupying Palestine for years, decades. And so that's really the root cause of how it didn't just magically start on October 7th, but that's not even the point. Even if you grant that everything started from this point to October 7th, since then, Israel and their government that we're funding and supporting has acted like Bond villains to the point where they're being tried for war crimes at The Hague in the International Criminal Court. For Israel to be charged with that is ridiculous. That means they had to go so over the top with their war crimes that they had to be tried just for the international community to maintain its legitimacy. to, even though, you know, Israel and the US usually get away with whatever they want, the international community, the fact that they even had to bring the crimes to International Criminal Court is kind of an example of how bad it is. So the latest story is the Israelis army lost their biggest amount of soldiers in one day. It's like 24 soldiers died in an attack. And then, but it turns out when you investigate the story, when from Israeli outlets, they were demolishing Palestinian homes, and then a rocket set off their explosives and blew them up. And so it's things like that where the media frames it as like these brave Israeli soldiers randomly exploded, but like it was their own explosives. And that goes back to a lot of this media coverage that has come out or not come out of Israel, because Israel has killed over 100 journalists who have been trying to cover the war. And on top of that, they've, let's see, I'm just going to quickly go through some of this list that the State Department has confirmed these things. So not just hearsay and YouTube rumors, but Israel has demolished cemeteries, homes, schools, UN shelters. They've bombed refugee camps, mosques, hospitals, in every zone that they designated as an evacuation zone. So they'll tell people to flee to a safe zone, and then they'll bomb it. And so there's really no safe place in Gaza. So when they tell people to evacuate, and these people, oh, they could have just left their homes if they didn't want it to be bombed. They're leaving their homes to another area that's being bombed. So there is nowhere to go. You leave your home to be bombed, or stay in your home and be bombed is the option of what these overwhelmingly amount of civilian people being bombed are. So we have mostly a journalist. They've dropped more bombs on Gaza in the last month or two than we did in 6 years in Afghanistan, for the scale of how aggressive they've been bombing this largely civilian area. Then let's see, we'll move on to, like I said, we went from blowing up the universities, graveyards. They're causing mass starvation, which is the UN has confirmed, and every human rights group, because they won't allow food and aid to go into Gaza on top of all the bombing. They've killed an estimate of about 25,000 people in Gaza, mostly civilians, 7,000 children at least. Many are still trapped underneath the rubble. The Israeli government that we're funding has openly stated that they don't consider any civilians in Gaza to be innocent. They think they're all designated as Hamas. So when they have those numbers about how many Hamas militants they're killing, they're counting any military aged man, not just with no proof that they're Hamas. They just have to be an adult male, and they're designated as Hamas in the kill numbers. So now it's come out more recently, which has come out in the Israeli government, that they have been bombing their own hostages. They've been killing, obviously, since they're bombing so aggressively. The whole idea is to try to get their hostages back, you would think, but it seems like the military directive has very little intent to actually get their hostages back. They are content to bomb, which the families of the hostages don't seem to appreciate, obviously, when it's like, hey, I want you to get, you know, my mom back, and they blow up your mom and just say, hey, Hamas used her as a human shield. That's not a great justification to blow up all the civilians. That's going on every day. There's a trend that Piers Morgan highlighted the other day, that Israel going on TikTok to document and celebrate these war crimes, which is causing more problems in the, you know, the PR war and mass perception of why are you guys bombing children and making TikToks about it. And out of all these stories and things you see every day about the atrocities and war crimes, the headlines you don't see is Israel bombed Hamas fighters. Israel gets victory against Hamas, because I'm sure those are the headlines they would like and would like to prop up, but it doesn't seem like they're getting Hamas, which seems to be the aim of the war. So the main point I'm going back to is this is the first genocide that has been live streamed in the new era of technology, where even if you bomb every journalist and media outlet you can, there's going to be a few camera phones and people that survive. They cut off the internet to Gaza frequently to try to do this as well, but there's going to be ways where people document these things in today's era that wasn't available back in Afghanistan in 2001, even back in other times where certain things happen. So when people are deeply moved by something happening overseas, it's not just because it's so morally unjust. It's because they're opening up their timeline in the morning, I want to see some sports news. I want to see, where's Harbaugh going and stuff like that. And I got to see some kid with their legs blown off because I'm following journalists and things like that in the war every day with our money while people can't afford groceries here in America. And my final point that I'll pivot to is I've seen enough of the gaslighting of the 4 more years of Joe Biden. It's ridiculous that they won't have a primary. And I just want to pose this question, and it's not a rhetorical question. If Joe Biden wasn't president of the United States, the most important job in the world right now, Joe Biden, with his mental faculties and his age and everything right now, what job would you trust him to do? What job in America would you feel comfortable that Joe Biden could do competently? Would you trust him to, get your groceries for you? Would you trust him to be your Uber driver? Would you trust Joe Biden to, drive a school bus full of, children? Is he competent enough to do, if he's not competent enough to walk off of stages by himself right now, which it seems like, or to, get through any debates, and you have to hide him from things, I don't think you can gaslight the American people to think he's competent enough to run the country for another 4 years. It's ridiculous. They should have found another candidate, even if it's someone with the exact same policy ideals, which I'm not a fan of, but it is getting a little ridiculous. And that's what I'm going to do with my time today.
All right.
CJ, I'm going to say something that's not going to be popular. I appreciate the young people and their concern for what's going on overseas, but I hope that some of them close their eyes and try to imagine this country after January the 20th. People are constantly talking about Joe Biden this, Joe Biden that. Number one, this war that's been going on between the Palestinians and the Israelis has been going on since 1948. You had back during that time 750,000 people that were killed. Then you had another war. It was called the Six-Day War in 1967. You had 776 military people killed and 5,000 civilians that were killed. I appreciate the young people's concern about what's going on over there. But the one thing I wish they would kind of focus on is what the hell is going on in the United States with these Black men getting gunned down. These young people have no idea of how many Black women a year go missing. There's thousands of them. And where are they probably being sold? They're probably being put into slavery and sold to some of these people in the Middle East. And Israeli, the way that they are doing things, this is nothing new. I mean, the Israelis, and Gary knows, the Mossad is probably one of the most treacherous intelligence agencies in the world. And that's Israel. But, you talk about Biden this, Biden that. I hope that people can sit down and imagine this country after January the 21st. Imagine the First Amendment going away. Because Donald Trump said he's going to get rid of the left-wing media. That means MSNBC. That means CNN. That means a lot of the other ones. Podcasts like ours, where you're talking about Donald Trump, that's not going to happen anymore. Because the only thing he has to do is tell his base, Carlos and Bill Spivey, they live at this address. And I don't appreciate them talking about me on TV. We know what his 2/3 mega base would be. And also, last but not least, I wonder, the young people think about what this country is going to look like when your amendments and your Constitution changes. Because I was brought up and I was told that when a person shows you who they are, you better believe them. And Donald Trump has showed you who he is. He got Roe versus Wade overturned. People said that couldn't be done. He showed you that. When he was in office, he put over 200 judges on the bench. Only 5 of them were Black. So he has the Congress, and as Carlos so eloquently said, he gets stuff done. He can get people to do what he wants. So when he decides, once he gets in there, I want to be president for life, I want to be king, when you have to go from Maryland to Virginia and you have to show your papers, to get from one place to the other.
Okay, Mr.
This is
Spivey.
what this world is going to look like. So, in closing, yeah, I feel very bad for what's going on overseas. But I think young people need to concentrate on what's going on right here at home with young Black men and young Black women.
Well,
you'll have your time, CJ. We're gonna go to Carlos, and then we'll for everybody's closeout. Carlos,
well,
you're on the clock, brother.
All right, appreciate it. Hey, a lot of things we talk about. We love to talk about sports, right? Because I think sports gives us a takeaway from the everyday world. We see so many crazy things happen. We see crazy things happen every day, and for 3 hours at a pop, or 2 hours with basketball, whatever the case may be, you get a chance to just think about one thing, just if your team is going to win or the team you're rooting for is going to win. So, but not to devalue politics or everything else that's happening in the world. I mean, I think there's points. I mean, like, I'm a Democrat. I'm gonna vote for Biden, but I understand CJ's point that it looks like he ain't gonna win. I see it, but I did see Biden like getting up like he was in a Rocky movie or something, and he was like yelling and screaming and throwing punches or something. He was trying to show that he can still do it. And I hope he still can. I hope he still can, okay? But the problem is Trump is the ultimate salesperson. He can sell, anything to anyone. He can sell fish to a fisherman who's already a successful fisherman. So I think we have to really take that into consideration. And I think I think if we can make a difference, like if everybody comes together, we can make a difference, right? It's going to take people to come out of their houses and make sure they vote. It's going to take people to actually do some research before they actually vote. Don't just go vote based on, somebody preaching to you for 5 minutes and you say, oh, okay, well, I think I'm gonna vote for him. No, why don't you do some serious research and make this vote count? If we don't have as many candidates, you don't have as many candidates to vet or research, okay? So go ahead and do your homework. If you do your homework at the end of the day, I believe it would point towards Joe Biden. Now, does that make the war overseas right? It don't, because we got Black people dying here, people of color dying here. Yeah, I mean, white people die too, but I'm just saying, it just seems like there's a lot more Black and people of color who are passing away from violent crimes and gun violence and guys getting shot for shoplifting and dying from that. Like, what the heck is going on, guys? All these crazy stories we hear. So we have enough problems at home right now, and I think that to solve the problems at home, okay, not abroad, because the war is just crazy. I agree everything CJ you're saying about the war. I agree with that. I believe Biden has a better chance at solving the problems home than Trump, because Trump is going to make the rich richer. Okay, he's going to make the people who are well off more well off. The people who are suffering now probably going to suffer a little bit more. So I think we just all have to take a solid look at that and just go do our part, man, and go vote. So that's my take. And like I said, we'll see what happens. We'll see. All
right. CJ, you got the final 3 minutes. You're on.
I very much agree that things have been bad here domestically. Like I said, all the things, like I don't disagree about anything about Trump. Like I said, Roe versus Wade got overturned, all that. But the thing that young people would like to point out is that those things, many of those things happen and continue to happen under Biden. And you're telling people they have to vote for Biden to get the same result. It doesn't make any, that's why it's not tracking with people, because like Biden didn't protect Roe versus Wade and had no intention to. So it's like some of these things like that, the crime, the issues with wages and things like that, those are happening now under Biden. He's been president for 4 years and hasn't lifted a finger to do anything about any of that. So it's hard to use that as a scare tactic to be like, what's going to happen with Roe versus Wade? Like, it got overturned under Biden. Biden won't fight for anything. You telling me to vote for Biden when he gets into office, he acts like he has no power, but Trump's going to get into office. And like Mr. Spivey said, he's going to use all the power. He's going to act like a whole dictator and overuse the power. He's going to try to abuse the power. And he's had the power for 4 years and hasn't addressed any of the issues that we have been bringing up from week to week. All those things that we're talking about are happening now under Biden. The rich are getting richer now. Things are bad now. There's a genocide now. We said Trump would start a new war, but like there's a lot more. We're bombing Yemen and all types of stuff now. There's like all the things are happening now. So yes, I agree they could get worse under Trump, but like things are dire now. You're telling people to vote for Biden to prevent the things that Biden hasn't prevented while he's in office already and hasn't indicated that he's going to, even in his term. But when he's talking about running for re-election, he's not talking about fixing any of these problems or addressing anything. He's just saying Trump's bad, which we all know and acknowledge. We acknowledge it every week. Trump's a maniac. He's going to try to make himself king for life, which is why, again, I just want to ask the question is like, whose fault is it if Trump becomes president? Is it the young people that don't like genocide? Or is it the DNC that refused to hold a primary, like Carlos pointed out, to give people an actual alternative to vote for somebody else other than Biden? Or to see if Biden really is this popular. If he's the strongest candidate, he would easily win a primary, but to not have one is very, very problematic. And even people like Van Jones on CNN are pointing that out now. Even the mainstream media, it's not a radical observation to see that them not having a primary for a candidate that is projected to lose is an extremely problematic strategy.
All right,
Wow.
folks.
Hey, Gary, can I throw something out there to make everybody think a little bit and smile a little bit before we end?
Toss it.
All right, let me see if I can do this in 5 seconds. All right, Coach Harbaugh is going
You got more than 5 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate that. Hey, with Coach Harbaugh going to the Chargers, let's say hypothetically, right, that, you know, he's thinking, I'm going to win this Super Bowl so I can go out a legend, right, between college football and pro football. I just want to win a Super Bowl. So if he gets down there, right, and Justin Herbert starts playing bad, does he call his former Super Bowl starting quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, to be a backup?
I heard that BS the other day.
And step in the way Doug Williams stepped in Washington as the veteran quarterback to help them get over the hump and win the Super Bowl. Hey, I ain't saying it's going to happen, but just a thought from the Thought Brothers.
I heard that. I heard that mess.
Yeah, baby, yeah. You never know. Hey, Harbaugh, he ain't scared to shake things up a little bit. You can see that, right?
Carlos, number one, why would Kaepernick come and play in the NFL? He would be targeted by every one of the rednecks.
Hey, look, if he's a third string quarterback and he's not scheduled to play and he only plays because his first and second go down and he comes in and leads them to a Super Bowl, could happen. Could happen.
Hey, Gary, let me ask the question. What did the NFL pay Colin Kaepernick? Was it $50 million?
He had a big contract at one point. Yeah, like that. Yeah, he did have.
The settlement.
The settlement to get out. Yeah.
And a man that settled for $50 million will come back and play in the NFL. You know what I equate that to? I equate it to this. Biden, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Robb, all of these people, Nancy Pelosi, they love this country. And that's why they're still fighting for democracy. Because I'm going to tell you, if I was Biden, I would say, you know what? You all don't like what I'm doing. I'm going home, get my wife, go to the Sierra somewhere and go on a vacation, and you can have this country. And find somebody else to put in my place and beat Trump. But he won't do that because he likes this country. But I would tell it later, I'm out of here. And see what happens.
Well, we will all see what happens as things develop, because who knows what we're going to be talking about next week, because with every daggone week, we got something that's shaking up in this place. CJ, you got a frown on your face. You got 30 seconds.
No, I was just baffled by that last statement. You think Joe Biden's running because he loves the country so much that he wants to do this, or you don't think it has anything to do with his ego or anything like that?
I think he loves the country, and I think that's the reason that you're seeing a lot of the older congressmen and senators leaving. That's why you're seeing people just leave, because they're tired of the fighting. But I think he loves the country, because otherwise, why would you want to put yourself through this BS?
I mean, if he loved the country, wouldn't he want to step aside for somebody who had a better chance of beating Trump right now?
That's what I said. I would step aside until you find somebody at this late date with 8 months left.
Hey, look, I'm born in Washington, D.C., and even though I've grown up in the suburbs my whole life, and I can tell you one thing about Washington. Hey, man, sometimes once you know the money is there, it ain't about the money. It's about the ego. It's about the legacy. It's about your imprint on history, baby. And if you can't leave a big enough imprint on history, then you might have to stay around a little bit longer until you can actually do that. So
Well,
just thought.
I think you got an imprint coming. As Patrick Swayze said, in Next of Kin, you ain't seen trouble yet, but it's coming.
All right. Well, you know what? Hey, we've run out of time, but if anybody's watching this show and you got something to say, go to the Thought Brothers website and click and leave your comments. We are the Thought Brothers, and until next week, we are out of here.
Have a good week, people.